All right, we'll switch gears a little bit now. We're going to move away from wounds, and we'll touch on colic. Again, these are some more images from Dr. Whitehead, so I don't think anything strikes more fear in a horse owner's heart than colic. And the first thing I'll say is that most cases of colic resolve really uneventfully, with either no treatment or very mild treatment, very conservative treatment. Most cases of colic are very mild. And it's tough with colic to give a broad, overarching prognosis or anything like that, because there's so much that makes it up. It's just abdominal pain, and it can be caused by any number of reasons. It can be excess gas, it can be feed impactions, basically they're bumped up. It can be a displacement or a twist of the intestine that we all worry about. It can be an infection, all sorts of things. And that's why it's hard to really speak in specifics about colic in general. So I'm going to divide it up into mild, moderate, severe colic, and kind of approach it from what do you do, when do you call us? So like I said, the majority of colics are mild. And again, going back to the questions that we often get asked, because I think that's important to kind of realize what questions you have in your mind is, we'll get a call and they say, well, my horse is pawing or doesn't want to eat, but it can't be colicking because it passed manure. They can still be colicking even if they pass manure. Certainly an impaction where things aren't moving through is one type of colic, and they will not be passing manure with that. Well, even some impactions pass manure, so there's really no absolutes, but they can still be colicking if they're passing manure. The other thing is, oh, he's got lots of gut sounds, so it can't be colic. No, they can still be colicking even if they have a lot of gut sounds. In fact, overactive guts can be a cause of colic, like a spasmodic colic or a gas colic. Most mild colics will just be mildly depressed. They may or may not want to eat. Sometimes they'll keep eating too, which is sometimes counterproductive. Pawing, looking at their flank, just not themselves. Maybe they're laying down a little bit more than usual. What do you do? Well, if you're not comfortable with colic, call us. We don't mind. In the meantime, take any feed out of there, just in case it's an impaction or in case their guts just need a little bit of a rest. Remove any food. You can give them water. You can walk them. See if that helps move things along, get a little movement, getting movement, you know what I mean? But don't walk them to the point of exhaustion. It's probably not very productive. The other thing I'll say is take their temperature, because especially with a mild colic, a fever, for whatever reason, can look like a mild colic. They can be off their feet, a little depressed, maybe laying down a little bit more, and maybe they have a viral infection and they're not actually colicky. Or I saw a case of colic, oh, this is many years ago, just not himself, a little bit of a fever. He broke the strangles 2 days later. So take their temperature. And then just monitor them closely, and if they don't get better, call us. Moderate colic, same sort of symptoms as what they had before, but they just have escalated a little bit. They may be rolling, they may be gaining up and down and up and down. How do you tell if they're just rolling or if they're colicky? Usually if a horse rolls, they'll roll, they'll get up, they'll shake, and then they'll go off and do whatever they want to do. A horse that's colicky will often roll, get up, go down again, get up, doesn't shake, doesn't go on with their other business. They may be quite sweaty. And they'll have an elevated heart rate and respiratory rate. What do you do? Same thing as for mild colic. Maybe you watch it, maybe you walk them for a little bit, take away their feed. Usually an infection is not going to look like a moderate colic, but it doesn't hurt to take their temperature if you can do it safely. Talk to us, maybe we're going to need to see it, and again, watch it closely. And then we've got severe colic. These are the ones that are throwing themselves on the ground, or sometimes wanting to lay upside down, all 4 feet in the air. Extensively sweating, really flared nostrils. They may appear bloated. What do? You call us. That's really the best thing for that. These horses usually need to be seen right away. Occasionally a really severe colic will just pass a bunch of gas and they're great before we get there, but if they're really that severe, just call us. If they're going down and it's hard to get them up, try to keep them up for us. That's when we'll say keep them walking. If they're just laying down and they're quiet and they're easy to get up, we don't say you have to keep them walking. But for us to assess a colic, it's so much easier if they're on their feet. So if they're going down and are hard to get up, keep them walking so that they're up when we get there. But above all, keep yourself safe. We don't want to be calling the ambulance on you while we're trying to deal with your colicky horse. If you can't keep them up safely, just let them be. We'll deal with it when we get there. Keep yourself safe. And again, going back to the questions that we get frequently, how long do you wait before you call the vet on a colicky horse? That depends. If you're comfortable with colic, or if you're not comfortable with colic, just call us. Call us right away. We don't mind. We'd always rather be called too early than too late. If they're just mild, maybe want to see if they're going to pull through, maybe give them half an hour, maybe an hour tops. If they're not better, call us and get us out. And again, it might depend a little bit on their history. Some horses just have these little episodes. They're a little uncomfortable. You walk them for 15 minutes, they pull through, and you know that about them. Maybe you'd wait on that horse a little bit longer than one that's never colicked before. But again, just to reiterate, we'd rather be called too early than too late. We touched on this a little bit earlier. More common questions. Should I give a colicky horse feed or water? Feed. Hold them off until we say it's okay to offer it to them. Just as a precaution, it doesn't hurt. They can go for hours without feed. They'll be okay. So it's just as a precaution, it's better not to give them too much. Or if you want to see if they're hungry, maybe you offer them a small handful of grass or hay or something like that. Nothing that can really accumulate. Water, offer it. Don't be too concerned if they don't drink it though, but you can offer it. Another common question when it comes to colic, should I give them some oil? No. And there's a few reasons for this. When we come out, we'll often pass the nasogastric tube up their nostril and into their stomach. We'll give them mineral oil, which is indigestible. So it passes straight through them. They can't process it at all. And we'll give them 2 to 4 liters in an average sized horse. So if you're just syringing a few syringefuls of olive oil into their mouth, you're not going to have the same effect. And even if you use mineral oil, that's a lot of syringefuls before you hit 2 to 4 liters. And you might just get it into their lungs instead of into their stomach. And mineral oil in the lungs is nasty. It sets up a nasty aspiration pneumonia. So it's not, a couple syringefuls of oil aren't going to make a difference. Don't worry about it. We'll give them oil if they need oil. Just stay away from that. And then the last thing, this is my last slide on colic, I think. This is information to have ready for us when we arrive. Questions that we're going to ask you when we get there. Number 1, has a horse ever colicked before? Or has it had colic surgery? Anything like that? Any relevant history regarding the colic? How long has it been going on for? When did you last know that they were normal? They ate the breakfast in the morning. We came home at 3 o'clock and we found them colicky. Have they passed any manure? Have they passed any urine? Have they stretched out as if they were going to urinate and then they didn't? Which doesn't mean that there's a urinary blockage. It often just means that they've got distension in their stomach and they feel like that might make them feel better. And have they passed any gas? A lot of colics are simple gas colics, and they'll often pass quite a bit of gas. Often feel better after they do that. When did they last eat? And is it getting better or is it getting worse? And then the last question we have there is, when were they last dewormed? There are a few specific types of colic that can be caused by parasites. All right, so all that nasty talk of colic, now we have a cute little full picture. Any questions on colic? You guys are all ready to deal with it. Okay. Either I've bored you to tears or you guys are just all over it. Okay, we'll touch briefly here on choke, another common equine emergency, and in my experience, can get clients quite excited, especially if they've never dealt with choke before. And at first I thought this was kind of confusing, and then I realized that it's because there's the common misperception out there that it is a tracheal obstruction, and it's usually not. It's usually an esophageal obstruction, meaning they can still breathe. So although it's urgent, they're not going to collapse and die before I get there. So just have that in mind, that it is just something stuck in their throat more so than it's something stuck in their windpipe. What can they choke on? They can choke on anything. The unsoaked beet pulp is the one that we always worry about because they eat it and it expands in their throat. And maybe that's the case, but also I just find that they'll take a great big bite of beet pulp and they'll wolf it down, swallow it all at once. And that's what more commonly causes choke. It's the way that they eat, not necessarily what they eat. I've seen many horses choke on pellets, like a complete pellet. They just took a great big bite, swallowed it all at once, and about halfway down. I watched the mare choke on oats once. I'm not sure how she managed that exactly, except just a great big bite. Worried that somebody else was going to get something, so she just dove into it. I've seen choke on even, well, I've never seen a grass choke, but hay. I've seen hay. And what does it look like? Bear with. I tried to embed this little video into the presentation here, and then it worked and then it didn't work, so I'm just going to pull it up this way. I just got this off of YouTube. I don't know who to credit for it, but I just thought this was a great video of choke. So here's our poor choking horse. So he's got frothy saliva coming out of both nostrils. It's kind of green. Whatever he choked on, maybe it was grass in this case. It's a big wad of saliva on the ground. And he's going to do what I call accordion neck. Let's see, where's he going to go? Where he kind of tenses up his whole neck and brings it, there he goes. That's what I call accordion neck. And that's your sign of choke when they do that. They may be coughing. He's giving us a great example here. Then he's kind of thinking, oh, there's a good wad of saliva there. How satisfying. Okay. Some of them get quite distressed. I've been called out to at least 2 colics that actually turned out to be chokes. One was throwing itself on the ground and pawing and looking like a colic, but it was just really distressed from choking. Okay. But usually they have the saliva coming out of the nostrils, that accordion neck, where they tense it up, and often coughing. Okay, so what do you do? Oh, there's our video. A lot of cases of choke will resolve on their own, believe it or not. Just enough saliva kind of works in there and it passes down. Usually, call us and we'll head that way in most cases, but some will resolve on its own. And what do you do while you're waiting for us, or if you're waiting to see if it resolves? Just try to keep the horse calm. If they'll let you keep their head down, keep their head down so that the saliva coming out of their nostrils isn't going to go back down their windpipe and into their lungs. We worry about an aspiration pneumonia after a choke, especially if it's been severe, going on for a while, just from all that stuff building up and maybe going down the wrong pipe. If it seems like it's passed, you can offer them a little bit of water. Watch them to see if they swallow. So the esophagus goes down the left side of their neck. So stand on the left side. See if they'll drink the water. If they do, and you watch them swallow, then maybe offer them a small handful of feed. And really, green grass is the best for that. It slides down easily. And again, watch to see if they swallow. But if you have any doubt that it's passing, just wait for us to get there. We'll pass a stomach tube and be sure that the way is clear down to the stomach. All right. Any questions on choke? Yep.
What's the time duration that you would wait to monitor before you determine I need to get you out because it's not passing?
Right. So did everybody hear that? The question was, how long do you wait before you determine if you need to get us out? Not long. Like a colic, maybe 15 minutes, half an hour tops. If the horse isn't distressed, if the horse is distressed, just call us right away. or if they have a history of choking and they don't resolve quickly, absolutely call us right away. Really, most cases of choke, I say, just call us. You know, if we get halfway there and it's resolved and we show up and the horse is fine, great. You know. But I have seen a horse lost to an aspiration pneumonia after a choke, and it's not pleasant. It had been going on for quite a while before they called us. So just like a colic, we'd rather be called too early than too late. Yeah. Any other questions on choke? Okay. Sorry, we're getting to the end of it. There's just so much to talk about this topic. And the next topic I'm going to introduce by way of an example. This is Diamond. He was a sweet old guy. Well, he wasn't that old. He was about 8 or 10 years old when this happened. He was a draft quarter horse cross. He was an outfitter's horse. And he spent all winter out in a big pasture with his buddies like this and into the spring, and then as they got closer to the hunting season, he was brought into a small pen, and then they were packed up into camp. And on the way into camp, suddenly, he stopped. He didn't want to move. He was trembling all over, really agitated and painful. And when they felt his back, the muscles along his back and his loins and his rump were really, really tight, just hard as a rock. So what have we got here? Anybody want to wager a guess? Tying up. You got it. So tying up or rhabdomyolysis, there's a few different forms of it, but basically the idea is the same. There's an abnormal storage of sugars in the muscle, and that means that the muscles can't use those sugars to burn for energy, and so they get really what can be quite severe muscle cramps. And there's a few things in the history that I gave you that increased Diamond's risk. One of them was his breed, draft quarter horse cross. Both drafts and quarter horses in the related breeds have a syndrome of tying up. There's also a separate syndrome in other breeds, including warm bloods and even separate syndrome in thoroughbreds. But drafts and quarter horses and whatnot are really prone to this. And the other historical aspect is that he was pinned up right before they went out. And that can be a trigger. These horses do better if they're out and moving around all the time, lots of consistent activity. And when they're confined, it's not the confinement, it's the exercise after the confinement that can cause a problem. The one thing I didn't tell you, but also that increased his risk, is that because there wasn't a lot of grass back up in the camp, they packed in a bunch of alfalfa cubes. And that, horses with this particular type of tying up, that can be hard on them. So I mentioned this as much because we wanted to talk a little bit about some problems that you might encounter on backcountry trips and whatnot. And this is one that the activity level change and the feed change in some cases can really precipitate. So what do you do if your horse seems to be tying up? And it's usually not right at the beginning of the ride. It's often when you've gotten in a little ways at least, and they'll just be so sore they don't want to move. Don't force them to move. If it's quite cold outside, try to put a blanket or a coat over their hindquarters to keep them warm. Call us if you can. And then consider, is the horse dehydrated? If there's a potential that they are, you could give them some water. If you have some electrolytes, you could try some electrolytes. Just try to keep them comfortable and cut down on their anxiety. And again, don't feed them anything like alfalfa cubes or grain or anything like that. Just grass or hay until the signs really subside. We'll touch on something else in a moment anyway. But yeah, often we need to treat those horses. There's a few things that you can do for them, keeping them warm and whatnot, but those are often ones we'll like to see. So, okay. The pretty pictures are getting more frequent. We're getting towards the end. All right, the last little thing, and I'm sorry I've droned on for so long here, is we wanted to talk a little bit about backcountry first aid. A lot of the time, the same principles apply. What you do at home, you do in the backcountry. You just might not have quite as many supplies, but treat what you can with what you've got. It doesn't have to be fancy to be effective. And don't forget too that sometimes the goal is only to get the horse safely to somewhere that we can see him, or somewhere that you can get him to a trailer. And so have a plan in place for the farthest point in that you could potentially get a trailer to. Where can you get cell phone service that you can call us if you need some guidance, and we can help you out, even if it's just some advice over the phone. We were brainstorming for this event, and we thought, it'd be a good idea to have some ideas of what you could put in a backcountry first aid kit. You're not going to tote your whole first aid kit into the backcountry. You just don't have enough space. So what, if you had to pare it down to just the minimum, what would you put in there? So this is kind of the list that we came up with, hoping that it could fit in saddlebags or a backpack or something like that. We thought of picking a knife, just handy to have. You never know when you're going to use them. Then a Ziploc bag, and in the Ziploc bag, put a pair of exam gloves and some 4x4 gauze squares. And that compared, the gauze squares combined with some vet wrap, so a roll of vet wrap in there. If you have room, a roll of duct tape. You could MacGyver just about any bandage you wanted out of that. A digital thermometer. Remember I said that sometimes a colic can look like fever or something like that. If you have space, I put that in. And then we thought a little tube of antibiotic ointment that would do double duty in an eye if you had an eye problem, or in a wound. And whatever you put in a wound, you should be able to put in an eye. But we thought a little tube of BMP or Silvadine, something like that. It doesn't take up much room. And then the last thing, and this is what I was kind of touching on with the tying up, is that if you go into the backcountry quite a bit, or if you know you're going to be there for a while, maybe talk to us in advance and see if we'd be willing to prescribe you some butyrbandamine to take in with you. If you're way out, it might be handy to have some bute or Banamine. If your horse is colicky, or if they're tying up, you can also give Banamine, especially if they're not dehydrated. So that's something we have to prescribe to you, but if you know you've got a big trip coming up, you know you're going to be a long way out, we might be willing to prescribe that so that you have it on hand.
If your horse ties up, how long do you stand there? How long do you have to
The question was how long if your horse ties up do you have to stand there? They're going to tell you, yeah, don't force them to move until they are kind of comfortable. If you have some Banamine and they're well hydrated and you give them some Banamine, I mean, it kicks in pretty quickly. They might be willing to move within an hour or two, but yeah. What's that?
Is that in the vein or in the muscle?
Orally, yeah. You can give flunixin, which is Banamine, orally, and it's quite effective, and it will kick in half an hour to an hour. Yeah, that's the safest way, unless you're really comfortable with a vape. I just take some oral stuff. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of the principles are the same as when you're at home. Even a light bandage is a useful bandage. It doesn't have to be the perfect stack wrap. If it's some gauze squares and some vet wraps, that's fine, especially to get them out to where we need them. We also discussed when we were talking about backcountry first aid, and one of the reasons why we said maybe if you have some room, put some duct tape in there. If you ever needed to make a splint, some vet wrap or a duct tape and a good sturdy tree branch, something like that. And then, like I said, have a plan in place in case of a colic or a time. So, okay, guys, thanks for sticking it out with me here. I've kind of reached the end of my presentation, and I just want to reiterate that really, if you're prepared for an emergency, everything becomes easier. I know if I see an emergency and I don't have my vet truck, I feel so. I feel like my hands are tied because I don't have my supplies, right? So a good first aid kit is really important. Know how to use it. Don't panic. It doesn't help anybody. If you stay calm, the horse will stay calm. And of course, when in doubt, call us. Even if it's just for advice, just give us a call. And finally, I want to really thank Dr. Whitehead for those fabulous images. I know it's hard to see here. Please go and look at the slides on the website to do them justice. And of course, all of our clients that let us use the images of their horses in this presentation. So, all right, any final questions about any topic? You guys are just all set for any emergency that comes up? Yes?
Sorry, so you indicated colic, they wouldn't have, the colic would not have a raised temperature.
So the question was, a colic does not have a raised temperature. almost always a colic will have a normal or maybe even a little bit of a low temperature because they're sucking some air into their rectum. There is 1 or 2 cases of colic that are caused by infections where they have an elevated heart rate, an elevated temperature. They're usually obviously colicky in addition to the elevated temperature. So it's the ones that have the elevated temperature and they're just kind of offbeat and kind of hunky. It's probably not just a colic, but there are a couple forms of colic, thank you for asking that are caused by infection and they will have a fever, but they're usually really painful. Yeah.
What is the normal temperature for a horse?
Good question, and I think it's going to be gone over in the first aid section, but usually about 37.0 to 38.5. Youngsters, foals, usually run at the higher end of that, so up to 38.8 would be normal in a young foal, but for a mature horse, 37.5 to 37 to 38.5. I don't get too worried about it if it's a little bit below that, but if we're cresting 39, we've got a fever. So it's pretty similar to us, and a digital thermometer like you get at the drugstore for humans, that works in horses. It's accurate in horses for rectal use. Yes? If you put Vaseline on the thermometer, does it affect the temperature? I believe it does. It warms up pretty quick. I mean, don't put big gobs on there. Yeah, but a small amount shouldn't affect it too much. And just, we'll be going over this in one of the small group sessions too, but you can also just kind of touch it against the mucosa of the rectum very gently too. That'll give you a little bit better read too. Questions? More questions? I love questions. Yes?
Once you've addressed the wound and taken care of it and sutured and whatnot, what is the best way to minimize the scarring after that's happened? You hear so much about honey and turmeric and,
yeah.
I don't know.
Very, very good question. So the question was, once you've addressed the wound and cleaned it up and put your wound dressing on it and all that kind of stuff, what's the best way to minimize the scarring? And we could go on all night on just that. And I know I've gone on all night anyway, but generally, if the wound is amenable to bandaging, a bandage will cause less scarring. It'll cause more skin growth. And although it seems to heal faster if you take a bandage off, and we kind of have the thought, we need to let the air get at it, it actually seems to heal faster because it scars. So if we want less of a scar, if it's amenable to bandaging, a bandage will do that. Now bandages can also lead to more proud flesh, which you have to deal with, but there's some wound treatments that have been shown to minimize the proud flesh. And like I said, we could go into that all night, but like semi-occlusive foams and stuff like that will actually minimize proud flesh. And surprisingly, to get a wound to heal faster and with less scarring, we're also finding that if we bug it less, it'll heal faster. And so we're starting, instead of, we always feel like, if we've got a wound, to be a good guardian of our horse, we have to clean it and change the bandage every day. And we're actually finding it may heal better if we leave that bandage on for 2, 3, even 5 days. And some of the new wound bandage material that we have, we can even leave it on for a week. And it's just amazing how it looks. Even, it smells, but the wound looks great. So, yeah, we could go on about that all night, but the quick answer I'll give you is that on a lower limb, bandage does cause less scarring. Okay.
Are there some antiseptic wound sprays out there that can cause, so out of the ones that you listed that are appropriate for wounds, can there be some horses that react poorly to it to the point where they're actually almost chewing their own foot?
Oh, okay, so a wound spray that horses could react to and even become more irritated. It's hard to know. Certainly some horses probably have a reaction to some wound treatments. Some horses just have this drive to lick or chew their own wounds. And sometimes it seems to be the nature of the wound, more extensive wounds, they tend to do that more. I can't really tell you a good rhyme or reason for why some of them do that, and I don't know that it's necessarily what we put on it. It might be, but I've had horses with wounds that we put nothing on still try to chew them, and I think sometimes there's like a little nerve pain if they irritated nerve or something like that that's causing them to, I don't know.
I just never heard of it, so.
Yeah, we've had lots of horses that you have to get creative to try to keep them from getting their bandage off.
Yep.
I don't know of any specific wound treatments that cause enough irritation that they want to eat the wound. But yeah, I guess I haven't really paid that close of attention to that either. Is that a question?
Can you comment when you clean for scratches? You
Yes.
know them areas get quite open, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you just leave them alone, or should you be putting something on them?
Okay, so the question was about scratches. And sometimes they can get quite irritated. Oh man, if I could cure scratches, I would be a millionaire. I really would. And no one thing works all the time. And I think that's because there's a lot of different things involved in scratches. And it's probably a whole syndrome that has a whole bunch of different causes. And you get a grab bag of each that causes it. Some scratches are really raw and you get more open skin, in which case I kind of leave them alone a little bit. But more typically we get those dense crusts, and it seems like whatever we put on those dense crusts doesn't get down to the skin where the problem is happening. So we tend to clean those up, soften them up, and get them off if we can so that whatever we put on it can get to the problem, the site of the problem. But, ooh, yeah, there's no absolutes when it comes to scratches. What's that? Sorry, I can't see who's saying that. Does the silver stuff work? I've tried it in a few cases. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. It's like everything else with scratches. Yeah.